we've never done this before. I had a conversation with like a 300 plus location CIO about a week and a half ago, and he just says that he said they have more projects than they have bodies right now.
Yeah, I
It's
think everybody does. I think it doesn't matter your size. You probably, I'm not gonna say you should have more projects than bodies because that's not, great either. If you have too many projects, you might not have any projects if nothing's getting across the finish line. So,
all right, Clayton. Here we are, another episode of Off Script. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
doing well, doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Masters shirt. I love it. I almost wore mine. Did you actually go ever?
I went a couple years ago. I went with some of my pals over at Ortho Brain. I know you know those guys too. So
Oh yeah.
some good guys, had a heck of a
Richard.
time. Um, really appreciated with Richard and Gino over there,
Awesome.
and Richard's got the inside scoop on some passes there. I won't give away all his secrets, but was able to get some gear. Was on spring break last week with the kids. Wasn't able to wear the Masters gear, so figured I'd celebrate Rory's back to back this
Yeah.
week.
Not a big fan, honestly, of him, but it's pretty impressive what he did.
He's a take it or leave it type
Yeah,
of guy.
I got my flag here.
Nice. I
Yeah.
have one as well.
Did you buy it? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We're
Good to get
stalling
some.
here. We're stalling. Clayton and I, we talked beforehand. There's literally so much that's happening in the industry right now that we aren't sure what the topic is going to be.
It's hard to pick a subject. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
So if you're tuning in for the first few minutes, what we're going to chat about, I think, is going to be a lot around what the market has looked like this year. Specifically around technology, of course, is what we would like to chat about. I think what might make sense for me to start and kick things off, man, is and get your feedback on it. So I went to the DSO leadership event last week. So Kaleo and the team have the I think three of these smaller events. There's like 100 people, smaller, right? Like 100, 100 people that go to these things, and there were some really good speakers. So he had Pat Bauer up there. He had Ray Caruso. He had Alex Sharp, Greg White, Matt Ornstein, like so all these folks you've probably heard of, right? Like heavy
Yep.
hitters in the industry. And I think it was an interesting feedback. One thing that Pat Bauer said, I maybe get your take on it because I know you work with a lot on the clinical side of things. He talked about doctors are our customers. And I think that was good for especially some of the earlier stage vendors to understand when having a conversation with DSOs, like things that are around that focus on doctor behaviors and helping improve their lives, specifically around technology, is really the way to go. So if you're not helping them be more productive, close cases, support in that clinical journey, like those are the customers that Pat Bauer really saw inside of their business. Do you have any general thoughts on that? I know we didn't really chat about this beforehand, but I figure you probably
Yeah.
this is your
No.
world, right?
No, I mean it's right in line with how I think every group should be thinking. And I think a lot are. Kind of goes back a little to what we talked about before we did press record that a lot of groups are working towards very similar outcomes in some different ways, but a lot of people are working towards similar outcomes. And if structured correctly, they're the you said it gives good insight to the vendors. I mean, the vendors are trying to almost like sell into a me or someone around ish in my position within one of these groups. But the end user or the end person who's impacted the most are the people in that office. It's the doctor, it's the hygienist, it's the assistants, it's the front desk, it's all of those people. So that really is that's our client. I mean that's who we work for. And the end all be all. If we're doing this correctly, we're here to just remove issues, remove barriers, remove problems in their daily life that we hear all the time. A lot of that is, falls back on staffing, insurance verification, the seamlessness of all of the different programs that we put in place. Some of that can be bringing them solutions that really help streamline their processes, getting them the education and resources they need from the vendors. Right, we're always going to go back and be that liaison to those vendors to be able to do that. But no, I mean, Pat always is spot on. I mean, that's why there's such a blueprint for so many people that that they've done it, they've been there, they understand that you have to keep clinicians and their teams at the forefront of everything, or you can lose their faith pretty quick.
Yeah, the one thing he said, and I don't want this to be like a kumbaya culture talk, but I've seen culture, and he talked about culture and decisions like they have to be aligned. Like you can't be over here preaching some sort of culture and then not living it and making decisions based upon like what the culture isn't. And I think I've worked at companies where you have your like values that you go over as a part of your, this is back in the early days, as a part of your training is you got to understand the values of the company.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of the situation, in a lot of cases, they're not necessarily, leadership doesn't act on the values of it. He talked about the cultures and decisions have to be aligned. And he also said inside their organization, non-dentists telling doctors what to do clinically is a fireable offense.
Mm-hmm.
And culture,
I've heard him say that.
have you heard him say that? Yeah. And he used an example. He didn't say names, obviously, but he used an example when it happened. Maybe on the culture point for you too. Have you seen, in relationship to technology, have you seen in your career, whether it's even previously at a line, a technology like positively or negatively influencing the culture inside the organization? Does anything stick out? It doesn't have to be like an actual example, but conceptually, the culture and having a technology decision positively or negatively impact it. Any?
Yeah. Well, when you said all that with like the vision, like mission, vision, values, right? It's like the backbone of every organization. It's what like. What are you setting out to do as an organization? What are your mission, vision, values? Everybody has them. I think all he's really referring to there, right, is trust. I mean, and you feel it, whether it is at the large NASDAQ traded company, at the Fortune 50 company. I've worked in all of them, at the startup, or within a DSO. We can't lose the trust. If there's a disconnect in what's written on that paper as your mission, vision, values, and your actions, or what you've kind of started morphing into, and people recognize that, you lose them. And I don't think there's anybody you can lose quicker than clinicians. I mean, they're gonna see through the BS. They're probably gonna call you on it. You can lose their teams too, but I don't know if the teams necessarily always have as much exposure as It's almost like the difference in a large company of kind of those higher level lieutenants, those directors, those regional managers. If you start to lose them, that confidence and that trust starts waning thin with them. That bleeds down into the lower levels of the organization, and there you can ruin your culture pretty quickly. I think the same thing can happen in a DSO, and it can start with those clinicians, and they're gonna feel it in their office. So if you have them, and they know you have strong clinical leadership, you're just gonna be. I mean, you're gonna be living up to what you said. It seems simple, right? You said it. You said you were gonna do it and live up to it, and you're gonna be actually doing that. I mean, what is that? What you've seen? I mean,
Yeah,
you've seen a lot of the inside workings of a lot of different DSOs.
I've seen a lot, and I've seen it at different stages too. Like however you define emerging technology, emerging DSOs, mid-market, enterprise, whatever your definition of that is. And as it relates to technology and that impact on culture, like I've seen a top-down approach to, hey, we're doing this, like we're rolling this out to all 13 practices or whatever, and then I'm involved in listening to some of the early discussions about the integration and the onboarding of it, and piloting it, what KPIs you're measuring, like all those things. And I've seen it both ways. I'm thinking of one specific customer that I'm working with that they're super happy with the product. And I hop on meetings, I listen in, and it's like, wow, this is really impacting our patients. Like, you guys are so responsive. Like, there was a problem here and you fixed it within 24 hours. And then I've seen the other way where it's like they don't want to hop on the calls. They're consistently like punting on the meetings. So I think it can have an,
Which side? Which side are you saying doesn't want to, what,
well,
flakes on the
yeah,
calls?
sorry if
The group or the vendor?
the DSO
Yeah.
specifically, like I'm talking about that culture, like not on the vendor side, not understanding how important it is to have a good onboarding process
Mhm.
on the vendor side. Then on the DSO side, the negative impact of that lack of clarity on the onboarding process and how that impacts the outcomes that the vendor will see from adoption of the technology, but also the culture within the organization. Like, it can really drive a negative culture. And then what happens is you lose momentum for, as a DSO, like not being able to implement anything. Like,
Yep.
now they remember the last implementation, how bad it was. And there's a lack of really
It's the
desire,
trust.
yeah, and trust, like you said, to really implement the tech. That's kind of where
Well,
I go with this.
it's really easy to lose sight on both these, as the vendor or within the DSO, that the offices and the team members and even a lot of people internally, other people in kind of the management side, don't know anything about that product. Not really. They maybe know what they've seen, but they don't really, because I've been that person. I'm still that person in a lot of ways, where I have to do the vetting of this, and we should be doing the vetting, right? We just talked about it. Like, we need to be bringing solutions to our team members that they don't have to worry with that. If they own their own practice, individually, privately, they have to go do all that vetting. And there's a lot of vetting to do because there's solutions, coming from every direction these days. But the people who do the vetting put in hours and hours and hours, and they talk to all these different potential vendors. And
It's a full-time
eventually you
job.
have to settle on one or two, right?
Yeah, it's a
And
full-time
then
job, right? Like, it's
it's literally a full-time job. And then the vendors, they obviously know their product so well, they start talking sometimes the jargon they use. No one understands it. Even the person that did the vetting with them, they start going down all sorts of paths. So they can definitely speak above the head of people just being introduced to it in these offices. The doctors, as intelligent as they are, you're talking tech, you're talking some of these other solutions. That's not their wheelhouse. So you lose in that too. I mean, that can kill some of these integrations, that you skip over some of the simplicity that you gotta make sure to check so many kind of these low level boxes to kind of climb that ladder to get to a true implementation integration. It's easy to skip it over and think you did it, think everybody understands it in the way that you do. Whether, like you said, whether no matter what size you are, small, mid, large, extra large, whatever, wherever you may sit.
yeah. Other verticals outside of dental, I don't think struggle with the challenges of like selling into a DSO, and then onboarding it. Like, the top down approach. So a lot of people probably come to you, some of these emerging tech companies, or even like some of the more legacy, like I think they still don't have it dialed in. Like, who do you talk to? Like, hey, do you know this CEO, Matt? Hey, can you get us in it? Like, yeah, I can get you an introduction to that guy or gal, but frankly speaking, they don't have a clue like what the tech stack looks like at this time. They've got individuals that are going to support that decision making. Taking it a step further, you better make sure that you can communicate effectively, like what the problem is and how it's going to affect, how it's going to be solved at the practice level. there's just so many layers. And you're talking about within your organization too, and larger ones like the RMs, the AMs, like the doctors. Like there's just so many levels to it. And this idea that a top-down approach is the way to is what happens inside the dental business. It's just not the case.
Yeah, it can't be. Not if you want to be successful. I don't think any of these. We talked about that a little bit in the past, but it just can't be. I mean, a top down approach is I don't know how anybody could really get anything done. I mean, you can maybe get away with that at some level in this, but as growth continues within the organization, it's not going to be
When do you think that
not going to
stops?
be feasible.
When do you think that stops? Like the availability of you as a leader to influence how technology is adopted across locations.
I don't know a number of locations when it
Yeah,
stops or
yeah.
otherwise.
Size. I don't
I
know. However
I
you
think
want
you
to
bring in a couple strong personalities in the dental world. You bring in a couple, you know, strong other personalities. I think as long as you have kind of a more complete control, be that monetarily or you're looked at as the mentor of every um, doctor or associate that you bring in, or the partnership is truly kind of owned. The organization's kind of owned by a very small select few. Because as ownership comes in, people want a say in that as they should. So, I think there's those types of factors start to dilute that direct control over that. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
there's there's like what I'm seeing is like from a top down perspective inside more of a mid-market enterprise, like that's when I see some of that start to happen. I think the approach as a CEO or an executive that determines, I'll just use AI as an example. AI, we are an AI first organization. Everyone needs to understand that. Let's be clear. This is the future of dentistry. This is going to be something that's going to support your role, not replace it. But we are an AI first company, right? Like that is an effective, like top down approach
Mm-hmm.
and message. What I don't think is an effective top down approach and message is we are going to use this company, they're the AI solution we're going to
Yeah.
use, and no questions asked. We're not going to pilot it. Like, this is what we're doing, right? I think you need to determine you're an AI first company from a leadership perspective from the top down, and then have your team internally, whether it's at a leadership level or at the practice level, like test out these tools, and then it becomes I don't want to say bottoms up, but bottoms up approach to
Yeah.
saying, hey, we evaluated these three things, and this is the one that we're going to choose, and then it goes from there.
So I
That
guess we have to define what we mean by like top down, right? I mean, like top down approach. Yeah, you got leadership has to, and they have that's a tough job, right? They have to help guide and give explanation and rationale behind decisions that are made because as an organization, you can't be scattered all over the place. You have to have some direction, and that has to come from from the top. So there is that thin line there. You said something earlier too about the vendors. Another thin line is there are those leaders. They have their roles, right? They have a lot on their plate. Their plate is probably not part of that plate is not evaluating vendors that are eventually going to be unless they're kind of it depends on their size, but at a certain level, which comes pretty quickly, I would say for the top, for like a CEO, like you mentioned earlier. I don't think it takes too many locations before they have enough on their plate to do that they need somebody else to analyze. So that for the vendor, it's tough to know who that person is that's going to move the needle, and then for the executive, it's tough to know how to frame where you're going in the future. Like you mentioned there, like we're an AI company. This is why we're doing what we're doing. If you take the time to explain that, you generally are going to be steps ahead, but it
yeah,
still doesn't make it any easier, and you still get some people that are going to
yeah,
see the direction in a different way. So
yeah.
they're probably going to push back.
Dude, sorry, my allergies, bro. I don't know about you. It's like
Zyrtec,
pollen city. Good gracious.
Zyrtec,
Maybe we could
preempt it. especially here in the South. That once the azaleas start popping,
Yeah, you're definitely more, you like
you
to
gotta
be
go
more of
early.
a proactive guy than a reactive guy. I've learned that about you.
You gotta be
You
proactive.
like to be prepared. I'm not in that case right now. We can edit that
I
out.
mean, look, it's not allergies, but it's everything we're talking about here too. Like you talked about AI being an AI first company. It's we've talked about it. It's buzzy, right? It's everything though. I mean, we've talked a lot about patient financing. We've talked a lot about RCM. Every aspect of the business. You better be proactive. Somebody's got to sort through these different solutions and see if they're a fit. And somebody needs to make sure that boxes are being checked and matrices are being built to ensure that it's a fit across the board and the best fit for the organization. Because if
Nobody's
you're
done it.
not,
Yeah,
you get
nobody's done
stuck
it
with something
before.
bad.
Nobody's done it before, right? Like we haven't been here before. What I think is interesting, and I don't have much to compare it to besides maybe like the .com age. Like you're old enough to remember that, right?
Hmm.
But we've never, we've never been in a situation where technology is taking over like it is right now as a society. Like obviously within dental, it's the same way, right? And understanding like where to focus that time and what companies to prioritize and which ones to pick, which ones are going to be around. Where do you focus on the front of the house, like Overjet and Pearl, Nvidia, and I don't know if told you I'm doing a panel at Thrive with
Hmm.
those three. I just got that confirmed yesterday, so I'll probably have something to say on the next podcast on how that went. I'm curious how far they'll let me take the discussion because I
We'll
won't.
give them the questions ahead of time. That'll be a must watch. That'll be well attended too. People are going to want to see that.
Yeah, it's right smack in prime time, like late
The
morning.
heavyweights.
Yeah, so it should be interesting. I'm excited about it. But what I'm saying is like, okay, where do you focus your time? And we've never done this before. I had a conversation with like a 300 plus location CIO about a week and a half ago, and he just says that he said they have more projects than they have bodies right now.
Yeah, I
It's
think everybody does. I think it doesn't matter your size. You probably. I'm not gonna say you should have more projects than bodies because that's not great either. If you have too many projects, you might not have any projects if nothing's getting across the finish line. So, I mean, that outlook and that comparison, and it's because there's so much coming at us so quickly. And it's because of AI and tech. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's more complicated of a puzzle than ever. It comes back to the beginning of that conversation where the simplicity is: are we doing what's best serving our offices? And the analogy you made with the internet, I remember when dental offices were, there were people saying you got to have your own Facebook page. And it's like Facebook, that's college kids sharing pictures of their weekend and what they're up to. It's like why did an office need a Facebook page? I had that thought, and very quickly you're like, oh my gosh, every office has to have that. And I I like when maybe it just makes me comfortable when AI is compared to more to the internet age. I know there's more transformational shifts coming with AI than there were even with that, which was the internet age was a big shift.
yeah,
But it makes me more comfortable to think that it's that type of transformation that we come into this and we adjust to as a society, as an industry as well, rather than the alternative of how some of these AI CEOs talk about the dangers of AI and what some of the apocalyptic descriptions that we've had about what AI can mean too. So I
yeah,
hope it's the former, where it's just this transformational piece that becomes part of the fabric of society. A lot of the way the internet did, and we can leverage these tools and it. The evaluation stage and the implementation stages, we doesn't necessarily get easier, but we start to figure them out, the best practices and all that. Like you said, it's so new.
yeah.
How do you know?
I saw a Gallup survey that says it said 50% of individuals polled like use AI at this point, which was a massive like uptick from the previous poll. So I think it's fascinating that that's happening. In my latest newsletter, speaking of like doom and gloom, it wasn't super doom and gloom, but I think it was, from what I'm seeing, interesting insights are that not all of the solutions that are being utilized internally inside organizations, especially DSOs, regarding AI, like are even talked about. Like
Hmm.
the shadow AI, which you've probably heard of, right? And I think
I have after reading your newsletter. Yeah.
if you press play, it's my voice reading to you. So everybody get a nice bedtime story of me reading.
I will be doing that next time. It's like my favorite audiobooks are read by the author. So I'll make sure.
11 minutes of, yeah, Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights. If you listen to that one,
No.
oh, he reads it, bro. He reads it. It's all time.
Go McConaughey voice next time.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear this. So I don't want to interrupt with your lovely vocal stylings of your podcast, but this was a really interesting topic. As soon as I read it, I had not really heard that term before.
So there are situations I know of where there's like multiple windows open, right? Like you're on your computer, and or maybe you're over here on another computer, and you have information on the company that's getting put into ChatGPT or Claude. You're supporting more than just like emails,
Hmm.
contract review, like some things that I think are maybe okay. The contract review, like that might even be dicey. But if you're putting company financials like P&Ls inside these AI solutions, where the inputs and kind of where they go. And Jenna Taft I don't, do you remember Jenna giving that talk on the black box at Dykema last year?
Yeah.
At the yeah,
Yep.
like it goes inside that black box, and it goes all kinds of different directions, and then it pops out your output, and here, oh, that's exciting. I'm gonna tell my CEO that. Like, look how smart I am. Well, that area, like imagine like a year from now, if somebody at XYZ DSO put their company financials in it, and somebody like asked for an example of a healthcare platform and what their financials look like year over year, and all of a sudden, boom, it spits out the financials that individual put in a year ago. Like, who knows where that's going and what
Yeah.
they're doing with that information?
Well, you get the enterprise level version of these things, but yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to we haven't really done this before. So
Another example,
even if they use it as an example, there could be indicators of, even if the name's retracted, right? There could be indicators, number of locations or clinicians or something else on there that,
yeah, one indicator is M dashes. For everybody listening to this, stop putting M dashes in your posts and emails. We know you didn't write it.
yeah.
Just
And I love the short M dash too. I was really bummed that they took over that long M dash, which just looks so goofy. But no, the shadow AI, man, it's a really good. It's just a really good point too of just there's sometimes these pieces just operating, and no one really has a great idea of what exactly it's doing. And it's
100%.
can be scary and make people a little apprehensive, and
And these aren't
but they're risky. The flip side is falling behind. And
and these aren't like, in my experience thus far, right? These aren't just clinical practice level folks like asking for help with email. Like, I'm seeing some products like being made inside of a DSO that are not up to the same standards that they would ask the vendors coming in. Like, are you HIPAA certified? Are you SOC 2? Like, all of these things that we're not even talking to you if you're that. We're just going to make this over here on Claude, and we're going to put all of our doctor information and all this data, and like, and you're not even following the same standards. I think it's super fascinating. It opens up the world of cybersecurity, and it opens up more gateways. And I look, I'm guilty of it. I do a lot of my stuff inside Claude, but I'm not a large organization, right? And I'd be careful about what I'm
there's a
doing.
lot of sensitive information on
Yeah,
it. You have to be super careful. And
patience.
everybody wants to build. The question is within every DSO, maybe we should have led with this. Maybe we talk more in depth about this on the next one, but build versus buy. You know, everyone has a better understanding now that a lot of what you're buying is built on the back by someone else of one of the the basics that you've just mentioned. Some of these AI platforms, it's just built on the back of those in the first place. So as people get more savvy with this, they want to build internally. One, you're probably already paying for the enterprise solution. Hopefully you've checked those boxes of compliance. But two, it's cheaper. You control it internally. If you have the right people, you can tweak it to look however you want it versus kind of going to that middleman that you bought it from or that you're paying monthly for per location and all of that. So it's shifting. I mean, that build versus buy is a real piece that people are already dealing with. They should already be asking those questions, and definitely will be as people get more comfortable with the tools. Like you said, that number is jumping up by the day.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is, man, by the day. Like stuff changes daily. I remember it's a fun exercise to look back at your calendar roll from a year ago, right? And see where you were at and what you were working on, like what you were up to, what your family, you all were doing.
I'll plug my calendar into one of the GPTs and have it look at that for me.
Yeah, that's a good
Give
exercise.
me a comparison.
Yeah, like it recognized some trends that maybe you're not seeing and inside of the work that you do, but things do change on the daily, on the monthly. Like every one of these podcasts from the beginning to now, I think has really shifted our discussion around this stuff, which is why we led with like, I'm not sure where this thing's going to go because there's so much on our mind for this episode, but I feel like we landed in an interesting spot. So maybe we should just continue to do that. Just see where it goes, man. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. And that, like I said, I think there's more to unpack with what we just talked about on a couple different topics.
Build versus buy, I think
maybe we'll continue those on.
Build versus buy is an interesting one. Before we take off, anything interesting, exciting going on you'd like to highlight? What's on your mind?
No, as I've told you, I wish I would be there live to see your big moderation there at Thrive in Vegas. I'm not gonna be able to make that one, but no, just keeping things moving. I mean, everybody created projects, imperatives at the end of last year that they wanted to get on the business this year, and I know everybody's working hard now we're kind of past the beginning, right? We've gotten past Q1, we're moving into Q2, we're in full implementation phase and make a difference type of phase and see the impact, hopefully, that everybody's wanting to see as we approach the middle of the year. What about you?
Mostly Buffalo Sabres. Yeah. Mostly Buffalo Sabres I'm excited about right now. They are in the playoffs for the first time in 14 years. I laid a bet.
Let's go Buffalo. Do they say that for the Sabres? Do they say let's go the same
Yeah,
as the Bills?
they don't really have like it got lost over the last 15 years of madness. Joe Cavaretta and I have been texting back and forth about it. I was in Vegas for the Dykema DSO event. And I laid $200 bet on Sabres to win the cup. So it's not going to happen, but I might just frame it anyway, just because
as a non-hockey guy, I guess I'm rooting for the Sabres now. So
yeah, you got to do it, man. But no, I'm excited about a lot. I'm so busy. Everything's technology wise. It's just fun to talk about. And I appreciate everybody I work with, chatting with you on this podcast. I know we've got some listeners now, which is nice. So I'm sure we'll hear from a few. Got to give Steve Craig a shout out. I mean, it
can't go a day without it.
Feels like really. We should do that.
He's my inspirational quote when I wake up every morning.
That's right. All right. Any predictions on the Charlotte Hornets, since we're going to be talking about this?
Look, this is what everybody waited for, right up until the end, till minute 33, in the playing game. The best seed ever to have this worse of a position, at the best record ever to have this worse of a position. So the number 9 seed got to win tonight. Probably got to head down to the Spectrum Center tonight and check it out live. So it's been 10 years. Talk about a drought. Same. I feel your pain with the Sabres. So let's go get a couple wins and get that number 8 seed and see what happens from there.
I love it. Anybody listening to, reach out to both of us if you have any questions on anything.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
I'd love to hear it. Any comments, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Right on. All right, my friend. Good stuff.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
All right, man.